Hey all, Rick Bassman here, live, talking tough, calling from the upcountry of Maui, where it's calm and quiet and eerie again today. Hawaii is shut down hard, but it's peaceful here. Crazy, crazy week in the world, but it's quiet and peaceful here, at least, I'm happy to report. The two gentlemen we have on today are coming to us from pretty busy areas, so I'm going to want to ask them about how the world looks from their perspective. I'm excited about the guest today. You know who's on, of course, Chavo Guerrero and Guy Mezger. There's a lot of reasons I love this, what I call superhero team up, this particular one today. One is, well, here's a big one. From their respective worlds and disciplines, the worlds of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts, these guys are two of, in the annals of those sports, these guys are two of the most storied middleweights, light heavyweights that there are. They have, to coin a phrase, we all know they've been there and done that. And I'm looking forward to talking to them a little bit about their ring and cage wars, but mostly about their lives outside of those disciplines. These are two guys that, we've been friends, Chavo and I, for a long time. I've known Guy for a long time. We haven't been in touch too much lately, but what I do know about them, post their full-time in-ring and cage careers, is they're both very active professional guys who, in my estimation at least, have their heads on straight, especially now in this crazy time. So without any further delay, I want to bring on my two guests. Oh, one more thing to mention. Another reason I like this. Okay, these guys, they're legends, as I mentioned. Chavo in pro wrestling, Guy in mixed martial arts, especially in those middle and light heavyweight divisions. But as I found out briefly before we went live here, they have never met. And that always makes for an interesting dynamic. So I'm glad to introduce to my audience and to each other, Guy Mezger and Chavo Guerrero.
Hello.
Guys, how
you
guys doing?
Hey, good. Glad to be here.
You two have never, you obviously know about each other, but you two have never met before. It's really cool to see the two of you together here. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rick, I can't hear you, brother.
I'm sorry?
Oh,
I can't hear Rick. I can hear you, Guy. I can't hear Rick. Maybe
I can hear Guy as
you're
well.
not sure
Guy,
everyone
can you hear
see
me?
you and hear you.
Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Okay, great. I want to do this real quick. Chavo, Guy,
hear.
And Chavo's off. He's going to come back on. We had this glitch, everybody watching, before we got started. That's why we're running a little bit late. Sometimes this happens, as we always like to only half joke. They can put a man on the moon or Mars these days, but can't quite get streaming technology right. But we'll slog through. We always do. So hang tight for Chavo Guerrero. In the meantime, the king of pancrase and UFC legend, and my buddy in Texas, Guy Mezger. How you doing, Guy?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. How are you? I guess you're doing all right.
Really good. Thank you.
If you got to be quarantined, you might as well be quarantined in paradise.
Dude, I tell you, man, it's I'm not complaining. That's for sure. We live testing 1 2 3 for Chavo Guerrero.
All good, brother.
All right, that's good.
I can't hear Chavo now. Guy, can you hear Chavo?
I can hear.
Test 1 2. Can you hear me, Rick?
Can
you hear me, Rick?
Can you hear me? Thumbs up.
All good. I can hear you.
We've reversed. Now Chavo can hear me, but I can't hear him. So what we're probably going to do is this. I am probably going to invite my producer, John Paz, of the Two-Man Power Trip, to join us. John is an incredibly experienced interviewer and very knowledgeable about mixed martial arts and pro wrestling. I dare say more so than myself. So, John, do you want to join us and be here to give us a hand today?
Sure.
All right. And there's a Two-Man Power Trip logo. Can we see you on video, or are we going to watch the logo? Either is fine.
Let me
I know John's okay, guys. We'll get there. Thanks for bearing with it, guys.
No worries,
what's
man.
going
No
on?
worries.
Can you let people know real quickly? Let me know, Chavo, what's happening in the Dallas area for you these days.
For me, Well, it's interesting. I've had to, I've had to redo my medical practice, around COVID. We're an integrated practice, but I'm the naturopath of the group, and a lot of the allopathic diagnostics, are easy to do because it's either blood or MRIs, things like that, right? And you send it out to somebody else. But mine, I mean, our analysis is, I gotta see you in person. I gotta see how you walk. I gotta see how your eyes look. Things like that. That's my specialty. And so when COVID hit,
a fighter with a brain. Where is that? That's good for you.
Every now and one slips by.
Right.
And but anyways, so I, of course, the gym, is it's interesting. It's been going. It's like an autopilot. It was a wonderful. We've always been, really successful there, and that has, that has gone away too. I mean, the gym is still there, but I mean, the money making part of it is drastically reduced, and so this has been a challenging time, but it's also been good because I'm kind of one of those guys that, I wait till crisis happens. Like if Armageddon's coming, guys, hang around me. I'll figure out how to get out of it. I'm that kind of guy. But the problem is I tend to just kind of sit on my ass until the crisis goes on for me to get to do something. And I've been meaning to change up some of the knowledge, whether we do some of our practice. We're going to change up some of the ways we do some of the practice, even at the gym. But things were just easy. We were doing well at the practice. We were doing well at the gym. Life is good, I'm raising my babies, and so why do this? And I didn't, and so I ended up getting this last year was a pretty tough one, which is interesting because my wife had her most successful year in her entire career. My wife is a rock star in the IT business. I mean, everybody knows my wife's name, and she had her best year ever. So as I'm tanking, she's going up. So I was like. So, it was good. It was good. I mean, it was just nice. We didn't get hurt like a lot of the other people because I know a lot of people, especially in the martial art business, had to close down shops. And they're having a tough time going. And it's
one thing I've always, Guy, again, like I said before you came on, you and I don't know each other that well. We've known each other for years, though. One thing you've always struck me as, no matter what's going on, you're just a very positive person. And I have to tell you, and Chavo, same with you. And that's another reason I wanted to put this particular mix together. We'll put guys on every now and then. It'll turn into a bitch fest, which is, entertaining in its own right, but not really what we're after usually. I love, especially in these times when most people are so bummed out, having such a hard time. It's refreshing to talk with someone who's doing well. So I'm really glad to hear that, Guy. And I want to point out also, if you follow Guy Mezger on social media, which I do, I don't think I've ever seen anybody that likes and respects their wife as much as you do. So that's pretty awesome, man.
Listen, I got a rock star wife. It's, every year since I was 40, I started posting. People make fun of me because I somehow act a little smarter than I really am sometimes. And people were like, you should do like when I turned 40, they go, you should do the 40 things that Guy Mezger thinks everybody should have. So I started making a list of 40 things. Then when I turned 41, I did 50 third one, this year. But the number one thing that I advise to you is go for that girl who's out of your league. You never know. You might surprise yourself. That's number one, because exactly what I did. I was like, I tell people all the time, it is better to be lucky than good, right? Because I'm lucky.
All right. I got a question.
I've never been that good to deserve
I want to question you on this. I want to analyze this for a second here. Before we talk to Chavo about his wife, who's also very awesome. I had the pleasure of being at their wedding a million years ago, it seems like now.
That's awesome.
So, Guy, I always again, half jokingly say, for a short, funny-looking bald guy, I've done pretty well with the females. You said you shot above your level. Dude, you're like the middleweight king stud of the world. What was What was above your level? How do you see that?
My wife. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, my wife is about the closest thing you'll see to like a living superhero. Like, she's a freaking nature. I tell people all the time. I said I waited older to get married because I wanted to have genetically superior children, and I said the sad part is that it's one day down the road I'm going to have to tearfully admit to my kids that I'm the one who brought down the gene pool. And she's about to be 50 years old now. She has a body like a fitness model. She doesn't even work out that hard. And I think we got Rick coming back.
There it is.
There you go. I just nope, he's gone again.
What they say, Guy? It's happy wife, happy life. That's kind of true,
so.
right? It's kind of true, man, for sure, man. I always know that when my wife's happy, my life is usually going a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, Rick was saying that you have an amazing wife too. I'll tell you something. I tell people all the time, but I've always been a fairly self-assured guy in the things that I'm good at. I'm always good at fighting, and I was always a good athlete and stuff. But then, when that world started coming, undone for me, it was an interesting change, And I'll tell you something. My number one rock star cheerleader was my wife sitting there. I mean, literally, it was her who made me make the pitch to Mark Cuban. 3 months later, I'm the president of part of his television company. The division of his television company. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
I have a badass wife. Yeah, my wife's a badass.
No one supports us like that. You got a lot of fans and the people that are supposedly behind you, but they don't see the lows. They don't see the training. They don't see you get out of bed and baby. It's hard to get out of bed sometimes, and all the damage we've done to our bodies from what we've our professions. So to have them be that cheerleader to us and keep us going, and that's I think the biggest part.
Oh man, amen, brother, amen. I'm a, everybody needs a team, but there's,
Yeah.
and that's the one thing I can safely say. It doesn't matter how mad I can make my wife because I'm not an angel all the time. I know that's hard for you guys to believe. And it doesn't matter how mad she's at me. She loves me more than anything else, And
Yeah.
and it's like it's to be honest, that's a really reassuring thing, and I can guarantee, especially like I said, I don't know how you handle your transformation,
Yeah.
I spotlight and stuff like that, and I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal for me, to be honest. I was like, I always had the knowledge, the foreknowledge that it wasn't going to last forever, right?
Right.
But
Right.
then it really happened, and you're like, what the shit doesn't last forever,
Well, that's it. We know it's not going to last forever, but when we get in that reality that it's really getting over, you're like, wait a minute, I thought I was prepared, but I'm not prepared for this. I'm not prepared. We're so used to doing that routine that we had for so long, which is you train, you fight, get punched in the face, whatever it is, you go on with your life, and you do it all over again, and then when it starts taken away from you, and it's not always on our terms, you're kind of like, wait a minute, that's not how it's supposed to be,
Yeah. That's yeah. Amen. I mean, I couldn't add anything other than, to that,
Right.
because it's exactly right. And I'll be honest, that's like I tell people all the time. That's why I'm good friends and stuff like that, because you can have it too. You have a lot of your buddies who it's like you got to have that conversation with them because they don't know when it's done.
Yeah,
And
for sure. You see that all the time. And no one wants to be that guy. Not even the guys that are those guys. No one wants to be those guys that should have hung it up a few years back. That we all see it, and we all see it. We all know, but no one wants to be that guy. But there's still those guys that don't realize that yet. It sucks. That's one thing about the fight game that that it kills me sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, the pro wrestling. I mean, the amount of I always tell people pro wrestling may be scripted, but it's not fake, because that's a real cheer that just hit that in the head. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is a really big 10-foot drop he just took on the side of his head. And so it's
yeah.
like I go,
I remember, I
I
remember
wouldn't
talking
put
to Ken about it. I remember talking to Ken about it, and we're like, dude, well, why are you going back to real fighting? He's like, man, I can't handle the pounding every, week in and week out that the wrestlers take all the time. He's like, I'd rather just, go fight twice a year and be all right. I was like, I hear you,
Yeah.
man.
Exactly. I mean, there was in Japan, they wanted me to they wanted me to go into pro wrestling over there,
Right, right. Yeah.
And they had a it was a work, it was total works, but they were slightly stiffer works, and they
Yeah.
had theatrics to it. They mixed a lot of like the lucha libre thing into
Right.
movements. And I can't remember things, and the guys were smaller. Like I would have been one of the bigger guys. I can't remember the thing, but really kind of cool system. But I started looking at the falls they were taking,
Right.
and I'm like
It-
35. This is like, well, actually, no, I was a little younger than that.
No. Yeah.
But still, I'm looking at it going, nah.
I don't care
I'd rather
what type of
try to
fight game
fight.
you're in. Whatever fight game you're in, it's a young man's sport. In pro wrestling we're able to do it a little bit longer sometimes, but it's a young man's sport. It really is. I mean, just the bumps and bruises and just your body doesn't heal like it used to heal. And I don't care, what you're doing, if you're getting punched in the face or fall into a mat, it just doesn't heal like that. And then you got these young guys out there that are, especially pro wrestling, they're like, oh, it's real. I'm really punching your face. Like, dude, relax, man.
Guys, something funny. We had last week we had Boss Rutten and Dallas Page on together, and they got into like a pretty good-natured argument about which one was tougher on the body. And,
Oh, I'd never get in that argument at all.
but here's the best thing about
That's
this
one of those
argument.
things that you're going to lose. Both sides are going to lose because
but-
both sides have. We're fighters. It doesn't matter. We're all the
But
same. I don't care what it
Here's
is.
the funny thing about this argument. Boss was arguing, saying pro wrestling is harder,
Oh,
and Page was saying mixed martial arts is harder. So go figure.
Look,
right?
look.
What the difference is one's a little scarier, and
Yeah.
because one's a little scarier, but it is. I mean, I listen. I did some bumps. I went out there and I took some. And like I said, what convinced me that I wanted to do this was like, one, you have to offer up your body, so you have to trust another man, especially when some of these throws stuff they're doing. I'm like,
Right.
and listen, I landed, safely. They did a great job on what I was doing, but I still landed from like a 6-foot drop onto a ring floor. And I'm like going,
Right.
F this. And, it was kind of like we were talking about retiring. I guess I was retired 2 year, and maybe it was 2 years, close to 2 years. Yeah, I think I wasn't 40 yet. I was 38, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was about 30, whatever, sometime around then. And I got an offer from Bodog. They wanted me to fight. And I told my wife, like I said, when I retire, I'm not going to be one of those guys that jump back and forth and do that stuff. I said, when I'm done, I'm done. But to be honest, man, that guy at Bodog, he was throwing stupid money. I mean, stupid money. And
It's
I'm
hard
like,
to pass that money up, man. It's hard to pass
like,
it up.
they want me to fight Hodger Gracie, and I saw him, and he's an amazing jiu-jitsu guy, but I beat him fighting, right? And so I was like, for that kind of money, I would have fought the entire Gracie clan at first. And
Right.
so I said, all right, before I agree to this, I said, I want to see how hard it's going to be to me get back in shape. And they say, yeah, no rush on it. So I started training. I spent about 6 weeks, wrestling, doing my wrestling, my submissions. About 3 weeks into it, I got my wind under there. I felt good, wasn't injured. I saw I go down to the boxing gyms, go down to Curtis Coates, the world famous. He's recently died this year, which is sad. But Curtis Coates' gym, he was one of my first boxing coaches, and he was a world champion back in the 50s and 60s. And I went down to his gym and started training, and I didn't even really get hit. I just got banged. And after 2 weeks of that, I called him up and said, "No, man, I'm staying retired."
Well, that's it.
I
It doesn't.
don't want to take the bangs anymore. I said,
People ask me like, how do you guys, rehearse, or how do you guys practice? I go, we don't practice. It hurts too much. I don't practice. Now, just like fighting when you're in there and you're facing another person, to me, nothing really hurts. I mean, for the most part, you know, I mean, you can slam me through the tables, you can hit me with chairs. It's like, you know, you get in that mode, in that mode where you like that pain. You're like, come on, bring it, bring it. But it's afterwards. It's afterwards. It's, you know, 2 or 3 years or 4 years afterwards that it starts hurting. It really hurts, you know. When I'm in there, I'm like, you know, kick me in the face. I'm cool. I'll take it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then afterwards, I'm like, oh, dude, what am I thinking about?
I'd say it was sparring for me. It's like, you know, it's like I'll get in there and, you know, every now and then one of the, you know, better fighters gets in there, you know, and it's like, and I got that competitive thing and I just keep going, and the next day I'm like,
yeah.
oh man, it's like,
It-
it sounds like microwave
it's
popcorn, you know?
it's funny the amount of pain that we get used to taking that we enjoy, you know, especially
Yeah.
back then when you're younger, you're like, all right, bring it, I, you know, hit me harder. But now I look at it now going, oh, no wonder you know, it's hard for me to move sometimes because of all those times that we were enjoying that pain.
Yeah. I never really, I always tell people reason I had so many fights and got, you know, some of my brains was I was very difficult to hit. In fact, you know,
You're
like
right.
really started getting hit was about what it was in my 30s. I never really got caught before that.
You start slowing down. Yeah.
But in my 30s, I, you know, started slowing down a little bit, and I got caught, you know, with guys that I think if I was in my 20s, I wouldn't have been caught by.
Sure.
But that's the curse of age. But I always tell people, the reason I did that was because of my first boxing experience. I tell people it's also the same reason why I became a wrestler. In 1976, I was 8 years old, and the Rocky movie came out. And I don't know if you guys went to the movie theaters in that one, but
oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you remember people were cheering in the movie. They were cheering in the movie as if their cheering was going to change the outcome of the movie, right? I was one of those guys. I'm on top of my chair. I'm 8 years old. And I'm like, Rocky. And I'm like, so I'm like, I have my destiny. I'm going to be a boxer. Yeah. That's what I'm going to be. And this is the 70s. So every rec center had boxing back then, right? You know, I mean, that was a prerequisite. Join the boxing team. 3 weeks into, the coach is like, hey, you want to spar? I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm Rocky Balboa, right? I go out there, boom, right in the nose. My nose literally bled for 3 days straight. Right. When I got back to the thing, I joined the wrestling team.
So, Chavo, you're probably on the other side of the theater cheering for Thunderlips then.
Oh, for sure, man. I was over there cheering for Hulk Hogan, and when he picked him up, and that was my side. Because, well, especially back then there really wasn't, you know, MMA wasn't as prevalent. So, or actually, really, MMA wasn't really around like it is now. But so there was always that debate, you know, can a wrestler beat a boxer? And you know, being a wrestler, I was always like, yeah, of course. You know, we amateur wrestled our entire life. I wasn't even really allowed to get into a wrestling ring. Well, we did, but we amateur. They were like they always stressed on me, you know, amateur wrestling, and I wanted to hit the ropes. They're like, no, not yet. So you know, my grandfather we were judo and wrestling and a little bit of jiu-jitsu that was around. So I was, you know, I grew up with Carlos Palomino Jr. Went to my high school, so he would always tell me about his dad. You know, his dad. Oh, you know, boxing can beat wrestling. And I was like, no, it can't. You know, it can't. You can't. Wrestling, you know, boxing cannot beat wrestling. So we always had that riff, you know. So of course I was always cheering the, you know, Thunderlips.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny that you mentioned boxing can't beat wrestling because that's something you would have known that your entire life with your pedigree, I'm sure. That's something the general populace didn't even understand probably until, wow, the late 90s.
Well, I mean, if you fight a boxer, you stand up with him. Well, he's going to pick you apart. That's his game. You can't do that.
Yes.
But yeah, our thing was always, you know, stay away, take you down, choke you out. That was our thing. You know, we'll take a couple shots here and there, and if he doesn't knock you out, then you're going to be okay. Their shot was to knock you out. But I mean, I love the sweet science. I love boxing because it's so technical and so beautiful. But I came from the side that we always thought wrestling would win. You know, who knows?
Sure.
It depends. It depends on the fighter.
we lost Guy, and he's going to dial back in. I have to
Yep.
say, Chavo, I think we're like on episode 64 or 74. I'm not even sure. This is
Right.
by far the easiest one I've ever had to do. And I hope Guy comes back on because you guys are both so good at this and so experienced at this.
Right.
I
Right.
just feel like
Hey guys, I don't know what's going on, but I just keep
You let
blacking out.
let the fighters
I
let the fighters
Chavo,
talk.
when you're dialing back on, that this is by far the easiest interview or conversation I've ever done for Talking Tough, because you guys are both so experienced and so good at this that I can like head to the bar. I can come back at the end of the hour and we'll get like the best reviews we ever got. So thank you guys for this, man. You're making it really easy.
No. To a guy, when you left, we were talking about, growing up in the wrestling game and doing amateur and all that stuff for, our entire life before that. I grew up with Carlos Palomino Jr. went to my high school. So we always had the debate that boxing, he always thought boxing could beat wrestling. And I was always, no way, it can't. Wrestling's going to beat boxing. No, it can't.
Yeah.
I mean, unless I box you, well, yeah, you're going to knock me out, But we were always, I just, stay away, pick my spot, take you down, choke you out. And, we always had that, so that's why I'm such a wrestling fanatic and a wrestling fan, but.
I'll tell you all the time, it's like, I grew up in the 70s,
Right.
we had to deal with things like, forced busing, which was a great idea, just didn't work, So literally from kindergarten on, we knew about fighting and all that, I'll tell you all the time, it's like, when I was just like, I'm sorry, the thing started going again. I thought I was about to lose you guys. So, so when I started wrestling and I was good at it, right? Like that, I was like, it changed the dynamics of everything in that thing. I tell you all the time, I never lost a fight in the street, because using my wrestling, I sit there and I go, and again, like I said, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and fighting was a rite of passage back then. It was, of course, we didn't go back to our home, get a gun and shoot the entire school up for it. Like
it's changed for sure. I just saw a post in the bottom from Yogi who said he was a bouncer, and I was going to mention that before, but he says he's never seen a fight stand up and just fight like this. It always goes to the ground. I mean, I've been in 100 bar fights and never once have we just sat there and duked it out. It's always ended up on the ground every single time, unless I got a chair broken over my head. But
Right.
Well, I always told everybody, I said, most of my fights street fights are never go to the clinch, because once I know I'm having the trouble, I punch them, and it's usually that's it.
No, for sure.
Everyone thinks they're a tough guy till they get punched, because I tell people all the time, you've never been punched by someone who knows how to punch, because if you did, you would be scared. I said, I'm not even a big puncher, but I still would put you to sleep so quick and be crying, oh.
Hey, just have a boxer give you a kidney punch just once. Just once. You're done. You're done. It's over.
How about a nice left hand to the liver?
Even better.
A liver punch, or once you get punched in the mouth and your teeth break, you usually stop.
Well, like I said, my first boxing experience, my nose got banged up so bad. Like I said, I became a wrestler.
Right.
It hit no more.
We have a lot of people watching. We're getting a ton of comments. So I want to throw one or two in. Yogi, who you just responded to, he's a good personal friend. So I just want to say hi to Yogi. Guy, so you're the king of pancrase. I'm a student. I've been involved in the sport since early days. I know what that is.
Was a huge fan of pancrase. I was a huge fan of pancrase. I love pancrase when it came out.
But Guy, we have a lot of people on today that know both disciplines. There's others that are just wrestling fans, others that are strictly mixed martial arts fans.
Yeah.
How would you summarize the significance of pancrase to people that are not familiar with it?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, it actually has a much bigger impact on MMA than and I'll explain that in a minute. But really, the what pancrase did in the wrestling world was it showed that you could have a shoot style fight. Guys, I might get kicked out of here again. I'm sorry. You could have shoot matches, which is a term for real bouts in wrestling, and that it was viable enough, entertainment enough for the wrestling fans. And so when Pancrase came out, it was in Japan. It was featured both in pro wrestling and in martial arts.
Right.
You know, and it changed. And to be honest, it changed up the way they did because they were doing some stiffer forms of wrestling and stuff. But then they said, then they realized, okay, even those things like rings and UW, they all started to have to go to shoots, and that's why all the big wigs faded off because they weren't capable of really doing shoots. And
Hey,
yeah,
first time my father was a good friend with Billy Robinson. So we were at the old Cauliflower Alley Club reunion one time back when it was in LA, and I was like 17 years old, 18 years old, and my dad's like, hey, Billy, I'm thinking about sending my son to Japan and come training with you. So Billy was like, yeah, no problem, we'll get him UWF. Okay, I was like, all right, do some pro wrestling stuff. And then I saw UWF and I'm like, holy shit. These guys are killing each other.
Yeah, it was stiff. And
Yeah.
and then so the significance of it on that end was it showed the viability of doing shoot style matches. You know what I mean? That were entertaining. And then the other side was the fact that it showed that pro wrestling can be a viable martial art. So Funaki and all those guys, they came up there. But you see the difference in Japanese pro wrestling. I don't know if it's still that way, but back then is you really had like you grew up really wrestling. Now most guys today don't. They're good athletes and they're stuntmen basically. But back then in Japan, you had to know how to wrestle. You had to know how to do it, and you may and then because a lot of times they had work shoots in all sorts of pro wrestling things in Japan that was a big deal. So you might be called on to do a real match. Like usually it would be like some smart aleck who, oh, pro wrestling's fake, and they put him up against some tough shooter that twists his head off. And so
all those guys could go back there. If they wouldn't even train you, especially in Japan, if you didn't know how to actually shoot a little bit, because you had to be able to take care of yourself. And they would always look at it like, very legit. You had to be legit to be able to do the work part.
Exactly. And so really that was kind of the cool thing. Basically, it showed pro wrestlers that, hey, we can do real stuff and still be viably entertaining, And then we showed the wrestling world showed, hey, that wrestling, pro wrestling is badass and it's real. When it's real, you can it's a viable martial art. And that's what leads to the next part.
Yeah. And then all those Japanese wrestlers, I mean, you got like Fujiwara was a pro wrestler for years. Sakuraba, pro wrestled. Got so many of them that were legit shooters that were pro wrestling.
Yeah. Oh, well, Sakuraba, Suzuki, Funaki. I mean, you go laundry list.
Funaki,
yeah. But anyway, so the other part is that MMA. Okay, so MMA. Remember, it was no holds barred, right?
Right.
How do you train for that? Right. So that's really the other influences that came with Pancrase was that it showed how, because I had 30-minute matches, right? So they showed how to train kick punch wrestling in and the long bouts. So basically, it gave gave people an idea, a format to do your training. Because how do you train for no rule? How do you train for no time limits? How do you train for like these no weight classes? There wasn't a format. If you go into a boxing ring, okay, these are the
right. I got kicked off again. He got kicked off. Keep going.
We lost him. We lost him again. Man, I feel like a fan today. This is, like I said, this is fun. I appreciate this. We can stay on that thread, or we can throw some Chavo Guerrero specific questions at you. Let's do that real quickly.
All right.
So Von Lewis is asking. We had Gory Guerrero, which the world knows about, and then we had your dad, Chavo Senior, and then of course your Eddie and Hector. And
Mondo,
yourself and Mondo, my friend Mondo.
Right.
Is there another generation of Guerreros on the way?
We had Eddie's daughter, Shaw, was doing some stuff with WWE. And since she's walked away, I don't know right now. I have two sons, but man, I just such a tough game. I told them to go get your degrees and we'll go from there. But it just, there's a lot of second and third generation wrestlers that are out of work, so.
Sure.
It's one of those that there was no guarantees, and it's such a hard life. I just did not want to. I just not wish that upon him. Me, it was a different story growing up because that was our life. We had our my grandfather's wrestling promotion, and we all grew up in the wrestling business with a wrestling ring in the backyard, and that's all we did. We ate, slept, drank wrestling.
Yeah.
So it was different. I didn't want to go that route with my kids, man. I didn't want them to. If they wanted to, different story, but I didn't want to, them to, hurt to get out of bed and, all the stuff that go along with the traveling, the being away from your family. It's tough, man. It's not easy, not for everybody.
Well, I think you've already answered this question, but I'll ask anyway. So if one of your boys was to call you tomorrow and go, hey, Dad, this college stuff is awesome and all that, but I think I'm going to quit and sign with Next, what would you say?
I'd say don't be stupid. Get your degree. It's not like you're getting a degree when you're 30. You're getting a degree when you're 21 or 22. You're perfect age. Get your degree, and then let's go. Then I'm all for it. I'll train you, and we're for it. But definitely get something to back up on because so many of it. I didn't have a backup game. I had no backup plan. I just did it thinking, okay, I'm going to be a pro wrestler, and thank God it worked out. But ever since leaving wrestling, I had to reinvent myself through Hollywood and TV shows and stunt work and stuff, and all the different ventures going on. But it's not easy, man.
Guys, I'm sorry.
You're back. That's all right, man. If you cut out, just keep dialing back in. This is working just fine. No worries at all. Guy, there's something I have to say to you in case you cut out again. I'm about 20 years past due on a thank you. And this is a total non sequitur, has nothing to do with anything else we're talking about, except for maybe kind of sort of bar fight stuff. About 20 some years ago, we were in some BF town in Alabama or Arkansas, I don't remember, for one of the early UFCs. And we were in a nightclub afterwards. And I met this nice young lady there. I was dancing with her. And the local boys were like shooting daggers at me with their eyes. It looked like trouble. But I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's, cool. Everybody's here. I go to the bathroom. These two local boys, big boys, I come out of the bathroom. They're standing there. And they're like ready to, whatever they're going to do. And all of a sudden, man, their eyes went wide, like in absolute horror and fear. And I turned around and Mikey Burnett and Vernon White and Guy Mezger were standing behind me. And that was a good backup, man.
I'd pick those three against anybody.
I'll tell you, Mikey Burnett has I have one of the funniest stories about him. Hopefully I can use somewhat inappropriate language because
absolutely.
Oh, we kicked off.
Oh well, he can use it when he comes back on.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's funny. We have a story like that. One time, my Uncle Mondo was getting into it with somebody in a bar, and there's some other wrestlers there, and he's like standing up this guy, and the guy's ready to fight him, and then all of a sudden the guy just backs down and like kind of cowers away, and my Uncle Mondo's thinking like he's still like, yeah, that's right. He turns around, and Ming and Barbarian are both behind him, going like this. And Ming and Barbarian, if you guys don't know, were two huge. They're Tongan actually, but some of the toughest men in the wrestling business ever.
Well, if you subscribe to Legend, which I do, those two are oftentimes considered the two toughest guys when it came down to it.
Nobody messed with them. Nobody messed with those guys.
Mondo had the Faces of Fear. I had the Lions Den. We were both in good shape, man. That's pretty cool. So before a guy comes back, so you were mentioning that you've been fortunate. You ended up with a great pro wrestling career,
right?
For lack of a better way of saying it, your after career has been very successful also. Can you let everybody know what you're doing these days? Yeah,
man. So there was a guy that kind of helped me out named Rick Bassman that helped me get one of my first jobs in for Grimm for an NBC stunt work over there. So thank you very much for that. But man, so I kind of transitioned into the Hollywood world and started doing, first started out as a wrestling coordinator, and then since I've gone to stunt coordination and kind of behind the scenes, I've done all this stuff on camera. I really love being behind the scenes and creating and, taking something from a concept and seeing it on film. I love that. I love that, and being able to work with the directors directly, and the DPs and the producers, and that's kind of my thing. And eventually, I want to direct and do the whole thing.
Now, you were a producer, weren't you, on that tiny little show that went nowhere called Glow?
Yeah. Well, I was the wrestling coordinator on that show, and everything wrestling went through me. So, yeah, I was involved in that one. That was a good one. That was like going to the Harvard of television, to be honest. And that was great work, working with Genji Cohen and all the people over there. It was awesome.
I could only imagine that. Yeah, it must have been a great gig. I remember reading about you being a producer on that show. Going, wow, he's definitely got his foot in this world solidly now, and that's beautiful. But I have to tell you, man, where I was thanking Guy before, I have to say I'm a little disappointed in you, because I think you know that I'm single these days, and I know I asked you to hook me up with Allison Brie, and I'm still waiting.
Well, you get through her husband, Dave Franco, first, and go from that.
No problem. I learned a few things along the way. I can handle
Yeah,
that.
you did. Yeah, you did.
Right on, right on. Cool. Speaking of family, is it okay I know you're a private person. Is it okay to say your wife's name on the show here?
Don't say her name, but we'll just
right.
say, yeah.
How is your amazing wife? She's an incredible person. I was at your wedding. How long ago was that now?
22 years, man.
Wow.
Yeah, 22 years. Yeah, she's doing good, man. She's doing awesome. She's a good girl and has decided to stick around me for a little bit, so she's doing all right.
That is fantastic, man. And so what is okay? We didn't talk at all before the show, and usually I talk to people
Right.
for a few minutes, and we there's no rules on the show. The only thing we try to avoid at all costs is the bad P word, politics. So without getting political about it, how does the world feeling where you live these days? I know you live in a busy area. I won't say where.
Right.
But I mean, how is it to walk outside and interact with your fellow human being?
Without getting too political right now, it's such a weird time when you have, my side against your side, and I'm right and your side's wrong. And it's really not. We remember what we are. We're Americans. We're all Americans. Everybody wants the good of our country. So let's compromise and get that thing done. And that's kind of where we need to be. If whoever our president is, if he's successful, then we're successful. That's where it's at. So I hate that politicians pit us against each other, because that's not what it is. You don't always have to agree with somebody, but it's about working together and making something work.
So one question I love to ask of guys like you, who are like a really good presence of mind and whatnot, is the following. You and I both know people, especially within our worlds, who are very much on, and I never say what side I'm on. I hope nobody out here even knows, because I don't.
Right.
But we both know people on the other side. If a good friend of yours, got to be good friends of yours who are on the other side. If you get into a discussion with them and they have to go after it like a dog with a bone, how do you handle that?
You know what, man? It's tough, because you're a fighter, you want to fight. But to me, I just think that anybody who is supporting or condoning hate, that's not where I want to be, And no matter policies and this and that, but when you're condoning, hating your fellow American because of their political stance, and that's not cool. I think that's the problem that we get into, because I don't care what side you're on. If whoever I voted for, if they start, crapping shit in the bed, and I'm gonna be like, I'm just because I voted for him doesn't mean give him a free pass. To me, I look at him, I judge him even harder now. I'm like, dude, I voted for you. You better do right, So that's kind of like my stance on it. And I understand everybody's side, but it's just, to me, it's let's let's preach love and unity back together. Well, they say a house divided can't stand alone. So I believe that.
Yeah, I do too. From your lips to God's ears, man. I'm hoping. Right. I'm not going to say who I voted for, or if I'm
Sure.
happy,
Well,
then we have
we
a
don't,
mutual.
it doesn't matter. We don't care. It
It's,
doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Let's move on. It doesn't matter
Yes,
who you voted for because we know who won. Let's move on and try to be better. Let's get the economy back. Let's get rid of this coronavirus. Let's ever get back to normal. That's whoever's in charge. That should be the number one priority.
we are very much on the same page, my friend. I don't know if you see this thing popping up and down. This is my new baby here.
I do.
To the podcast world. This is to the Talking Tough world. This is Wilson, everybody. And
Wilson, what's going on?
that
I
is
love
his
it.
impression of a vicious pit bull he's doing right now.
I know. It's crazy, right?
Pretty scary, huh?
Well, you've always
Thank
been a pit bull advocate, so and they say they're the most loyal dogs out there, so I love them.
Do you have a dog?
I do. I have a little rescue dog. He's a little mutt, and he's awesome. He's the best.
No, nothing quite like a relationship with your pop.
No, man, it's like those things see into your soul, man. They're awesome. Talking about unconditional love, right?
Well, without question, without question. We have a question for you, asking why with WWE hiring so many of your contemporaries, i.e., the Hurricane Helmses, the Adam Pearces. Why? I think I know the answer, but I want to ask you, why have you not gone that direction?
Well, a few things. First of all, they haven't asked. Second of all, you know what? I would have to give up too much to sit there and go back to WWE full time. WWE takes, you have to give up what you're doing in your life to do that. And I have so many other things going on with, Hollywood and my own ventures, my own cigar company, my own beer company, my own podcast. So it's hard. I think it'd be hard for me to give up everything like that, So with me, I just, I don't know, man. Sometimes you just don't have best relationship with them. Sometimes, sometimes. And also, I quit there. I left there, and sometimes they don't like when you when you leave there. But that being set aside, it's all about making money. If we can make money and Vince thinks like, hey, Chavo, let's bring you back in, make him money, make me money, then it works out. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. There's no hard feelings. It is what it is. To me, I've learned everything that I'm doing now is really because of what I learned from Vince McMahon. So, that's the truth. With TV production and camera work and directing and just everything like that is really learned from Vince. Now I've taken it to, taking and run with it a little bit, but really the basis all came from Vince.
Yeah, no, I hear you. He's an interesting guy, and I know we don't want to get too stuck on him or WWE, but
Sure.
it sounds like you obviously have a lot more experience with him than I do. Although I do have a very small entry in my book where it says Vince McMahon has been very, very bad to me and very, very good to me, but mostly good.
I think everybody could say that. I think everybody could say that about
I think
Vince.
so too.
Yeah. Dude, he's a billionaire for a reason. There's a billionaire. He's not in the charity business. He's there to make money. If you can make him money, you're going to have a job there. If you're not making him money, then you're not having a job there. Think about your Starbucks, working at Starbucks, the owner of Starbucks, or even the store you're working at. He's not there just to give you charity and just sit there and drag your feet. He's there to make money. And if you can be an asset to the company, then you're there. Once you figure that out, then that's really all there is.
Yep. True enough. Absolutely. And I figured the answer you gave for why you're not there, that's exactly what I was expecting. I know you have so much going on now and you're doing well. We're getting close to an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long, but do you have a 5-year plan? What does the future look like? What are your biggest hopes in the world right now?
Yeah, dude, I got so much stuff going. I got a lot of irons in the fire, man. I started flipping houses. I'm always a hands-on guy, so I'm always doing construction and that kind of stuff. So I started flipping houses there too. I kind of do a lot of things. So this is my thing. Before I had wrestling right here, and once wrestling dried up, when I left wrestling, money dried up. Right? I was like, what am I going to do now? So now I diversify everything. So now I have I do, a little bit of signings, and then I got my beer company, and then I got my cigars, and then I got my stunt work, and then I got my Hollywood stuff. And then when something dries up, I just replace it with something else. And at the end of the day, that all comes down and has a little pot. So I kind of diversify now and do just a lot of different things, and just I love being my own boss. I love being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, go on vacation when I want to do it. And we all got to work, we all got to pay bills, and you might as
So
well
of
do
all
something
these
you like.
different things that you're involved in right now, do you have a favorite?
Um, I love the Hollywood business, man. I love getting behind the camera now and just creating, man. I think that's my favorite thing right now. I
Do
love
you
that.
see writing, producing, directing, is all
I've
that in
I've already produced. I was a supervised producer on Lucha Underground.
Yep.
I produced the 2 episodes of the Dark Side of the Ring that I was on, the Eddie and Benoit story. Uh, so I've got a bunch of stuff doing that. I'm doing some work with $7 Productions. So in the future, I'll do some more producing and maybe some executive producing. That's something that it's all creating, man. I love creating that stuff.
Yeah, I know you've always been a master of your own destiny in that regard, as much as you could while you're with WWE.
Right,
Obviously,
right. Yeah, you
it's
try, man. You try, and what happened with us is that me and the Guerreros, we love the wrestling business. We fell in love with the wrestling business. So all we did was wrestle. But wrestling's gotten so big now that you can take that experience that you have working with a billionaire on a daily basis, and you can expand that to other parts of the world. Really, everything that I'm doing is still basically wrestling. It's just different parts of wrestling. Everything I'm doing in Hollywood, it's what I learned in wrestling, even though it may not be wrestling, but it is what I learned in wrestling. Working off the Guerrero, off my character, my brand that I've made, that stuff, it still basically stems from wrestling. Without wrestling, at least for me, without wrestling as that base, then I can't do any of the things that I'm doing right now.
I've always said, for as long as I can remember, that everything you learn in pro wrestling can be applied to the rest of your life, and certainly to
Absolutely.
So, but I hear you on that one. Now, your brand.
Yeah.
Before we let you go for the day,
Yeah.
our producers have had several different links up for you while we're watching the
Right.
podcast. Hopefully,
All right.
people have reported those.
Cool.
Where do people want to go right now to really focus in on what you're up to?
Anybody can go to my Instagram. I pretty much put everything on my Instagram, which is Chavo Guerrero Jr. And you'll see what's going on with my Los Guerreros Mexican Lager, my beer, my new ventures that are always coming out there, my house flipping, definitely my Hollywood stuff. What I can post, like right now, I just finished a show that I can't really post about yet, but as soon as I can, I'll start posting about that stuff. And kind of everything's on there. That I think that's, at least for me. I have my Twitter at Mex Warrior also, but that's Twitter's mostly news. For me, it's my Instagram is people want to see pictures, they want to see fast, they want to see a quick story. That's kind of where I'm at doing stuff.
Okay, so at Chavo Guerrero Jr. Jr.
JR. Yep.
All right.
You'll see. You just put Chavo up in the very first one.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yep. Yeah.
So I got a text from Guy saying he's having technical difficulties and
No
tried
worries.
to rejoin but couldn't. He wanted me to let you know that he said it's very good to meet you. And
yeah, for sure.
I think we're all on a text thread together earlier, but if you don't mind, I'll share your contact information with each other.
Please do. Yeah, please do, man. And we'll just do this again, man. We'll do it again when we have better connection, and we'll knock it out, bro.
Maybe you'll have them on your podcast. I know you have a podcast now. That's great.
Yes. So my new podcast is out, and new episodes coming soon. I just signed a deal with a podcast company, so that's why there's been a lull from the last podcast. But there's about 8 of them out there, and it's called Suplexes and Cervezas with Chavo Guerrero Jr. It's going really good. People are really liking it. It's kind of like feels like being in the backseat of a road trip with the guys, and girls. Yeah.
I look forward to watching your progress and your success with that.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you,
Chavo,
brother.
really good to have you on, and good to see you. It's been too long, my friend.
It has, and keep Hawaii, keep it warm for me, man. I'll make it up. I'll make it back out there soon. I think
Come
I'm going to.
visit anytime. I'd love to have you.
I think once this stuff lates up, I can go be back in Kauai, in June or July. But can't wait for that.
If you are, take your 25-minute flight, please, and pop over for a minute.
I may do that.
All right, man. Great to see you, Chavo. Again, thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. God bless, man. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys.
And we have concluded with Guy Mezger, who was in and out, but I thought great when he was on, and Chavo Guerrero, and Wilson, who doesn't want to leave my side today, it seems, but that's a good thing. And I'm wondering if John Paz is still with us. John, are you out there in technical difficulty land?
I am here. How you doing, Rick?
You are. Amazing. Good. And we're loud and clear. Looks like we have a good connection. That's great. That's great. Did we miss anything that we should have gone into?
A couple of people were asking about Kerwin White. What was his, basically, did he like that gimmick? Did he not like that gimmick? People were asking about the agent thing, but he covered that, which was pretty cool. I think that would be smart if they brought him in as an agent, but obviously he's got so many other things going on, it might not be feasible for him. I would have asked him about Pepe, the horse.
Right.
For sure, I would have asked him about Pepe. But
I saw those questions popping up about Pepe and about Kerwin White, and you know me, I kind of try to avoid getting too deep into the gimmicky sort of stuff. But dude, you're like a master at that stuff. What in the world do you think Creative was thinking when they gave him those kind of things to work with? Where does that SHIT come from? It's yours, and that's not an aside at Chavo, because I know he had nothing to do with that, and he did the best he could with it. But where does that come from, man?
I think Pepe was his idea, and I believe it was just a joke. Kerwin White apparently was a rib. I've been hearing the rumor is that it was a rib, and I guess they just thought, okay, Chavo is going to play his character because there's actually a guy, Kerwin Cephas, or however you pronounce his name, and basically it was a make fun of that guy, so it was like a rib on that guy. But you never know with Vince and whoever's writing. So I guess sometimes they go a little bit on the juvenile side,
kind of like the Mike Jones being Virgil kind of thing.
Yes.
That's
absolutely. Yes.
Okay. It's interesting. I've thought about this. This might be getting a little deep, but let's go there. So it's a bit of a rib, right? But then it becomes whoever the guy is, they has to take on that character. That's someone's idea of a funny joke. That becomes that person's entire existence for a while. That's pretty freaky, isn't it?
Yeah, if you think about some of the guys, like obviously I know Shane Douglas very well. He was Dean Douglas, hated it. Dr. Tom Pritchard hated playing Zippa, the bodydontist. So sometimes when you get those gimmicks, they suck. But a guy like Fred Ottman, who played Shockmaster, who fell over and obviously he screwed it up, he just jokes and he laughs about it. He just takes it in stride. Said, well, hey, people remember me 20, 30 years later, and they made a figure of it. I'm making money off of it. So sometimes the guys just roll with it, and I feel like the guys that roll with it just kind of take it easier, and they make money off of it could be a silly gimmick or even a rib or something. They can make money off of it. But a guy like Dr. Tom or Shane, they definitely felt a little slighted with a terrible gimmick like what they were handed.
I'm sure your good buddy Glenn Jacobs loved playing Dr. Isaac Yankem.
We just talked to him and Dr. Tom. He was on Taking You to School show, and he was talking about how you kind of just do that to get your foot in the door. Once you get in the door, you're hoping that something changes where they give you a better gimmick. Even Undertaker said to him, like, dude, this is a shit gimmick. Like, we got to get you something else. Like, and Fake Diesel's not cutting it either. We got to get you something else. So when they came up with Kane, Undertaker obviously was ecstatic because he had somebody to feud with. And Glenn was super excited because this was a great character that he could do something with. And he knew Isaac Yankem was taking him nowhere and fast.
I'd say Kane was slightly better than the Crazy Dentist. Absolutely.
Yes, which apparently is a Jerry Lawler joke that he always wanted to book a dentist, crazy dentist with bad teeth and everything. So I guess Vince heard that and was like, yeah, let's do it. And he took him seriously.
God bless Jerry Lawler. They ought to bring him back as the Red Rooster incarnated. That'd be awesome.
The Red Rooster's another one with Terry Taylor, just another terrible gimmick that the guy absolutely hated. And you could tell he hated it, and it was just, I don't know, I guess it's Vince's stupid idea. He's like, oh, this guy's like the cock of the walk. Look at him, he's all cocky, and he's like the Red Rooster. Just
So
man,
bad.
awful mistake.
All right, let's keep goofing around here. Let's talk politics without getting political. What's the mood like on the eastern side of this country, man?
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. They're everyone is up in arms, whether it's a Dark Knight Rises plot reincarnated or whatever the hell is going on. Yeah, everybody's in uproar over here for sure.
Dude, it's trippy out here. It's, you heard me talk what this whole thing started back in March, the COVID thing at least. The politics mess has been lasting longer, but you've heard me talk since then. You and Hannibal, we talked about this a lot. That it's mellow out here. You don't know there's anything going on. But man, I had to go out today. I never go out. I'm isolated in this house up on the hill with my dogs, right? But I got a dog sitter today. I went out into town. We call it going into town. It's a big excursion here, to run errands, to Target and stuff like that. And dude, people are like walking around flexed. I mean, it's no joke. Everybody just seems pissed off. Maybe I'm being overly sensitive, but I don't think so. Are you feeling that vibe too?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, it's a crazy world right now, but a lot of people are pissed on both sides for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it definitely is. It's at a boiling point. That's for sure.
And I'm going to see you in DC protesting next week, right?
I highly doubt it.
Okay, I mean, right.
If it's not somewhere in New Jersey, you will not see me, or maybe a little bit into New York.
No, I know you don't like traveling much. I don't these days, that's for sure. I am going to Qatar later this year, though. That
How do you really pronounce it? Is it Qatar or is it Qatar? I've heard it pronounced both ways.
I don't. I will never speak with authority on something I'm not certain about. I call it Qatar because for some reason I have the impression that's how you say it, but I could be wrong, man. I don't know.
I've heard it pronounced both ways, so I'm not even sure because who's right and who's wrong. But I just thought, where the hell is that? I'm trying to think. Is that by Dubai?
It's in the Middle East, yeah.
Okay.
When I next speak with Ali Marafi, the owner of, how do we say it now, Qatar Pro Wrestling, I will ask him for the correct pronunciation because now I want to know too. But,
are you going to be wrestling, managing? What are you doing over there?
Helping with talent and whatnot. Yeah, that looking forward to it, man. That's one place I've always wanted to go. I've been to Dubai before. I've been to UAE. I've been to Israel. I've been to Egypt. But this will be a new country, and I hear it's a really cool show. In addition to it being an amazing country, so just looking forward to one of those rare across the seas get-togethers with the boys. That'll be pretty cool.
Who's like the headliner? Who's like the big name that they're booking over there?
I got a kayfabe you on that one right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. When is the show?
September.
Oh, so okay.
It's
It'll be a while away. Yeah, it's a while away. Okay.
But it's going to be a big one, a sizable one for sure. What happened to our boy Hannibal today? Is he around?
He messaged me before, and since we didn't say that we were going to do this afterwards, he obviously something else came up, so he didn't really know this was going to happen. So I was like, I don't think we're coming on afterwards. So he obviously had something else going on.
No worries. I know typically he'd be at the gym, but I believe the gym's closed again where he lives in Canada.
He was last night after we were done recording. He went for a 2-mile run or something like that in 0-degree weather. So who the hell knows what he's doing? He's nuts. Who knows?
That guy's an animal
he is
for his age and the size of his body and the injuries he's had. He goes on like these crazy long distance runs in sub-freezing weather.
Yep.
Dude, I can barely walk to the mailbox, and I'm in 70-degree weather here in Maui. So go figure.
Yep. Oh, look at this. A comment from Hannibal. Zip could have been WWE champion. I love Dr. Tom. I agree.
Oh, wait, Hannibal, are you out there? If you are, join us for a moment.
That was from about 10 minutes ago, so I'm not sure if he may have just briefly showed up.
If not, I want to respond to your comment about Zip being a great champion and say you are absolutely incorrect. Sorry, had to say it. I just don't see. I love Tom Pritchard, one of my favorite people in the business. I just don't see the Zip character carrying the belt or the strap, and I'm sure Devin was being facetious anyway, so that's all right.
Definitely, for sure.
What else did we miss for Guy and Chavo? Anything else we should address?
For Guy, I love UFC as far as just like that time period he was in there, the two fights with Tito, stuff like that would have interesting. But I was more interested in his Pride stuff, the Sakuraba fight and a bunch of other stuff, the Chuck Liddell fight. I would definitely been interested in that for sure. I just think that would have been some good stuff if the connection worked out, or maybe you can get him on again and talk a little bit of Pride.
Yeah, we certainly could. That would be fun to do. I think it'd be fun maybe to do me and my multiple guest thing. I think it'd be fun to do a Lions Den episode one day, and maybe round up the guys we were talking about. Mikey Burnett. Guy was going to tell us a funny story about Mikey when he cut out. Vernon White, Trey Teligman, Pete Williams. All the old boys from the OG days. That might be fun to do something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. For sure.
I think I'll work on putting that one together. And for anybody anyone that's still out there and watching or listening, send in your comments about ideas for what I like to call superhero team ups. What we try to do here on this part of Talking Tough, at least, is to match a legendary or iconic pro wrestler with someone who's a legend or icon from the MMA space. And it could make for some, interesting conversations. So ideas, let us have them, please. Always up for looking for the next cool thing.
Absolutely.
Well, John, my friend, I think talked out. Thank God for everybody listening. And I think I'm going to go get my groceries out of the car now before they all spoil in this nice warm weather.
Good idea.
Good to see you as always. Thank you for hosting. Huge thank you to Hannibal, Devin Nicholson, as always, for helping us out on YouTube. Thanks so much for our other fantastic producer, Rachel Sartoris, who is joining us behind the scenes from Big Bad LA, where I know it's really crazy. And so thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Hannibal. John, thank you always. Before I sign off, a quick shout out to one of UPW Ultimate University's original wrestling students, Michael Candelaria, aka Pure Talent. Michael, good to see you watching. Thank you, everybody who watches the show. Thank you, everybody, for writing. We're enjoying doing this, and we're going to do our best to bring you good content that doesn't cut out on you. That's the streaming world. We're all just living in it. Rick Bassman here on Maui for my pups, Eos, Dennis, and Wilson. For John Paz at Two Man Power Trip. Devin Nicholson at the Hannibal TV. Our producer, Rachel Sartoris in Los Angeles. Peace out till next time. Thank you.